Hello, my name is Vastine East, and I'm the author of this book, Maasai Man. The illustrator's name is Lorena Burke. I hope that you will enjoy this story. It is a story about raw courage, and I hope that after listening to the story, it will have inspired you to have the courage to do things, wonderful things in your young life, to study harder, to become a better person. But most of all, let your courage take you to the stars. Let your courage take you places that only your dreams can illustrate for you. Let your dreams be your footprint that you leave behind. But it takes courage. And I hope that as you listen to this story, you will put yourself in the shoes or the bare feet of this young boy in this story and realize that courage is a wonderful thing. It's necessary. Maasai Man. Prey or predator is the way of life on the East African Serengeti. I should know. I am a hyena, both predator and prey. I am the scavenger, the coward, and the laughing clown of the Serengeti. I am a predator when the lion, called King of Beasts, is not around. I am the prey when we cross paths. Sometimes the lion will pursue different prey. On such an occasion, I secretly witness from the tall brown brush of the Serengeti a lone, frightened, and skinny young boy struggling with fear, faced with the terror of the Serengeti. This is that story. On a rainy afternoon, with herds of grazing good zebras, antelopes, and bouncing impalas, off in the distance, a rather young boy with his face painted bright red and his hair in colorful red braids followed four mumbling elderly tribesmen. Walking in single file, they looked like an army of ants. After they reached a certain clearing away from the tall brush, their mumbling stopped. The chief elder at the front of the line turned and looked to the end of the line and beckoned the young boy to come forward. The young boy with gazelle-like legs ran quickly up to the chief elder. "This is the spear of your father," said the chief tribal elder. His voice sounded like the rumbling thunder that chased the lightning across the rain-filled African sky. "You must stay strong and be as brave as a lion. Remember your brother Tingde," he added. Tingde slowly took the spear from the chief tribal elder and sheepishly said, "I will not fell you, Emopo." Emopo looked down at Tingde. "It is not me you must not fell. You must not fell yourself. Remember your brother Tingde. Do you want to change like a fell to become a man by running wounded from a lion?" Tingde could see Emopo's piercing black eyes flowing his rain-splattered dark and wrinkled face. "You are stronger than the lion. He has only his roar. You will be a man after this night," Emopo said. Afterwards, Emopo slowly turned from Tingde and led the other three men back to their village. Night was approaching. Tingde saw herds of grazing antelopes, and they reminded him of cattle back in his village. He looked homesick. Tingde, wearing a rain-soaked red draped cloth over his young lean body, stood alone holding his spear in his right hand. His stomach felt queasy. His mouth was dry with fear. He had never been alone before in the wild. He lived by the same laws that govern the wildlife living on the Serengeti, no matter how great or small. This was his coming of age ceremony. He would have to pass this test to become a man by killing a lion with only his spear and raw courage. If he succeeded, he would be welcomed back into his village as a man. If he failed and lived, he would be treated like the village women. He would have to survive alone, age, and the boma. Now 15 years of age, this was his moment to become a man. This was traditional way of the Maasai. The dark night had arrived. The rain stung his brown face as he looked sadly into the direction of his village. Because of the rain, the red dye was beginning to fade from his skin. Because of the rain, his long orange-colored hair braids were returning to their natural color. Because of the rain, the red cloth that was draped over his right shoulder clung to his lean body. There he stood silently in the cold rain, his presence being revealed by occasional flashes of lightning guarded by Mount Kilimanjaro in the far distance. Every strange sound that he heard made him flinch. The movement of tall grass began to look like millions of villagers staring and laughing at him. A wet blade of grass fell on his bare feet, scaring him. He jumped in fright, thinking it was a snake. Heavy drops of sweat fell from his forehead. He sadly looked in the direction of his village. Tingdi started humming a song that people back in his village sang to ease his fear. He squatted down, resting his forehead against his spear. He gripped his spear tighter as he looked down at the cold wet earth beneath his bare feet. The rain began to fall harder. When the sound of hoofbeats and grunts from what sounded like a large animal frantically raced through the thick brush. Tingdi braced himself for whatever might emerge from the darkness. The unseen beast quickly turned. Tingdi never saw what it was. Frozen with fear, Tingdi could not move. His bare feet were planted to the cold, wet earth of the Serengeti, and his right hand clenched his spear so firmly that his fingers drew blood from his palms. After a moment, he could sense something moving in his direction. He could not see it. His eyes squinted. Suddenly, aided by a bright flash of lightning, he realized he was not alone. Emerging from the dark was a large, snarling male lion. He had failed to catch the large unseen beast that had startled Tingdi moments before. The lion had found an easier prey. Frozen with fear, Tingdi dropped his spear. The snarling male lion circled slowly around Tingdi. The crown of the king of beasts. The lion crouched down low to the wet earth, ready to pounce at any moment. The lion was much larger than Tingdi had ever envisioned. His massive weight could be felt shaking the ground as he slowly walked back and forth, summoning his own power, his own courage. Then, like a flash of lightning, the lion bolted into the dark. Moments later, a quiet, eerie calm fell over the Serengeti. Tingdi's heart was pounding quickly in his tiny chest, like the drums back in his village. He turned slowly to look around for the lion. The lion was gone, but where? The rain had stopped. The cold wind was beginning to blow. Tingdi began to shiver. He got down on the wet ground on his knees and his hands for his spear. He stood erect again and began humming his village song again as he walked in the dark. After walking for a while in the dark, the glowing eyes of a nervous wildebeest quickly vanished as Tingdi startled him while they grazed in the dark. In the distance, he could hear the sound of elephants. He could hear small things creeping on the ground and scurrying as he passed. The more Tingdi walked, the more it became. His skinny brown legs grew tired. He stopped walking and knelt down to rest. His rest was disturbed when the sound of antelope, zebra, wildebeest were grazing, and the sound of fright that could only mean one thing. There was a danger coming to them all, lurking in the East African night. Again, coming into view was a large, snarling male lion. He seemed larger and more vicious this time. The lion was aided by the rain that began to fall harder along with the increase of thunder and lightning. Tingdi's eyes grew wide as the lion prepared to attack. Thoughts of running clouded Tingdi's mind. He turned to run and saw visions of his crippled brother. He could hear the village people laughing at him back in the village, and he saw himself never being called a man. He sucked in his bottom lip and turned to face the terror of his youth. His time had come. With spear in hand, he confronted the slowly approaching king of beasts by making quick contact with his spear. Having difficulty in seeing the lion at times, he was aided by flashes of lightning as the beast darted to and fro. Each time the lion attacked, Tingdi dug deep into his flesh. Each time he felt Tingdi's spear, the lion at times appeared to bite himself after the sharp spear had pierced his flesh. The massive lion moved quickly into the dark brush. The lion summoned all of his hunting skills to win this battle. Almost crying, he laid his spear down and drove his trembling right hand into the wet earth and grabbed a clump of mud. He groaned as he smeared the mud on his wounded left shoulder. His left side was covered with his blood. Moments passed and the sound of the beast rumbling in the brush returned. After receiving another wound from Tingdi's spear, the lion recovered and moved quickly into the dark. 3 times the king of beasts made his assault. Tingdi's left shoulder was bleeding from one of the lion's attack. The pain was so great, Tingdi fell to his knees in exhaustion. Moments passed, and the sound of the beast rumbling in the brush returned. Tingdi began to fear the lion was supernatural because he kept attacking again and again, each time more aggressively. The lion leaped one last time. Tingdi rose to his feet and caught a glimpse of the leaping king of beasts with the aid of a flash of lightning, and thrust the spear. Tingdi fell to the earth from exhaustion, and the lion crawled into the brush. Later, all was quiet. The only sound was a fading rumble of thunder in the distance as the last sound of earth. Mount Kilimanjaro was coming into view again. The long black night was chased away by a beautiful yellow sunrise. Mpopo and the rest of the tribal leaders returned early in the morning to find an exhausted, shivering Tingdi, and not one, but 3 dead lions lying scattered in the tall, wet Serengeti brush. Once during the long walk back to his village, and exhausted Tingdi looked back over his right shoulder. He had learned that it was far better to face what confronts you than to run. I hope you've enjoyed this story. I hope this story has instilled in you a desire to let the courage that I know exists in each of you to be Tingdi, to use your spear, and to fight your lions. Only you can do it. Thank you for listening and enjoying this story. Maasai Man.